In this video we are going to take a closer look at the February Deathwatch tournament results, focusing on the continued appearances of the new Army of Renown, the Kill Team Strike Force. The tournaments covered are the Beachhead Brawl 2022, Viking Games Warhammer 40k Winter GT, Warhammer 40k Match Play Event, very original name that one, the 40k London Open and the Melee at Shiloh. Over the course of the video, we will go through all the relevant results and lists in an attempt to find out whether the by now aged Deathwatch supplement can still be competitive among a sea of new powerful codex releases. For the final part, I will offer my personal conclusions and a quick wrap up.
Welcome to SwissHammer, your channel for modeling in Warhammer 40k. My name is Tammer, and I will be guiding you through this video.
Before we dive right into the tournaments, I think it is worth mentioning that February was somewhat expected to shake things up. Chapter Approved 2022 plus several strong new codex releases, Tau Empire and Adeptus Custodes in particular, have sent people back to the drawing boards, not to mention competitive players jumping to the latest flavor of the month armies. For both Tau and Custodes, things have started off more than just decently, with both of these factions hovering around close to 70% win rates. Personally, I am not surprised to see Tau end up there for the time being. As I have already mentioned in previous videos, I fully expected GW to overcompensate for many months of neglect, and given how previous codex releases have been handled, this was to be expected. The only question here is for how long will GW let this go on before the first wave of FAQ nerfs hit. Custodes, on the other hand, is sort of amusing, given that vocal elements of that community have been predicting the doom of the faction, and more than one codex review has been very moderate with rating the power of the new Custodes. But as it turns out, the Golden Boys are now truly running on steroids. Space Marines, on the other hand, are continuing their downward spiral, with competitive players abandoning the faction, as well as those still playing no longer getting the big wins in. Can Deathwatch still hope to be competitive at all among this power creep? With this little introduction out of the way, let's have a look at the latest February tournament results, starting with the Beachhead Brawl 2022, featuring 199 players over 7 rounds. Here we only had 2 Deathwatch players attending, which is like 1% of total players, well below from what we have previously seen. Nonetheless, Michael Costello carried the Deathwatch once more, playing the Army of Renown, ending up on rank 5, going 6-1. His matchups were as following: Custodes, Grey Knights, Sisters, Dark Angels, Sisters again, Tau, Necrons. Certainly no easy matchups for the most part, perhaps a bit surprisingly though, that his only loss was against the Sisters and not against the current top factions like Custodes or the Tau. But anyway, I am most pleased to announce that Michael Costello has been making further changes to his list. While he left the HQs unchanged and still rocks the Indomitor kill team as before, he now dropped his Proteus kill teams from 4 down to 3 and instead added a, drumroll, Spectres kill team. Hell yeah! Perhaps typical for his aggressive close combat playstyle, he added 5 Incursors to the mandatory 5 Infiltrators, giving him an early board control option. Furthermore, he put the Lord of Deceit Warlord trait on the Sergeant through the unique Army of Renown stratagem, allowing him to redeploy them. I think a by now commonly used tactics is to deploy them forward very aggressively, basically preventing the opponent from doing something similar, and then redeploying them back to safety if necessary. Anyway, this change aside, his 3 Proteus kill teams are still in the good old Costello style. If you haven't seen my latest release on how exactly they are being played, I recommend to give that one a look, link is in the description. That excellent result aside, there has also been a second player present at the tournament, Jonathan Fleetwood, ending up at pretty much the bottom with rank 198, might be a newer player who ran a non-meta list with several Proteus kill teams, 2 Relic Contemptors, 2 Hellblaster squads and a Whirlwind. While I don't think that he made any bad picks on an individual level, I think this simply shows that in order to still do well in a highly competitive setting with Space Marines at this point, including Deathwatch, you really have to rock both the list and the experience. Moving on to the second tournament, the Viking Games Warhammer 40k Winter GT, an event featuring 34 players over 5 rounds. Here we also have a single Deathwatch player with the Army of Renown, Mikael Klangby, ending up on rank 8. His matchups were as following: Admech, Craftworlds, Genestealer Cults, Drukhari and the Clowns. What is kind of amusing here is that he faced a lot of different space elves, and he beat them all, while both Admech and the new Genestealer Cults gave him some troubles. Looking at his list, for HQs, he had a captain on bike with the Dominus Sieges, a Phobos librarian with the Tomb and the Paragon of their chapter Ultramarines, as well as a Primaris chaplain on bike with the Beacon and the Ties that Bind. Personally, I think those 3 HQs are the way to go for now, and also the upgrades were sensible, though I think he picked a bit heavy on those overall, starting with only 7 CP for an Army of Renown. For troops, he had a Forest kill team with 5 Outriders, not a big fan of those anymore since the points increase, though I think a point can be made for lots of chainsword attacks combined with Specialism Extremis. He then has an Indomitor kill team with the Boltstorm Aggressor and Single Inceptor combo. This one is pretty much a staple of any Army of Renown list these days. He then has 2 Costello-style Proteus kill teams, as well as the Spectre's kill team with the 5 Incursors and the Lord of Deceit stratagem we have already seen from Michael Costello. Overall, I would say this list is certainly paying homage to that, though personally I have my doubts that the Fortis kill team is really an improvement over just sticking to another Proteus one. Moving on to the third tournament, the Warhammer 40k match play event, featuring 52 players over 5 rounds. Here we once more have a single Deathwatch player, Andy Rustdale, ending up on rank 24, so pretty much in the middle. His matchups were as following: Genestealer Cults, Necrons, the only Imperial Fists player at the tournament no doubt, Orcs and Custodes. Losses were against Necrons and Custodes. For his list, I was surprised to see that he was going quite the unconventional path for a Deathwatch army, not bringing along a single kill team. Instead, for HQs, he went with the Primaris Captain with the Tomb and the Indomitus Lieutenant with the Dominus Sieges, as well as a Primaris Tech Marine with the Worken. He then went with super minimalistic troops, basically an Incursor and 2 Intercessor squads. The rest is almost old school for Deathwatch lists by now: Blade Guard Veterans, 3 Redemptors, 1 Relic Contemptor, a squad of Vanwets and then an Eradicator squad. As I previously mentioned, I don't think that these are bad picks on an individual level at all. I just think that the Dreadnoughts have been out-rotated in the new meta, and the new missions are better aimed at making use of troops, our kill teams in particular. Moving on to the fourth tournament, the 40k London Open, featuring 98 players over 5 rounds. Perhaps somewhat unsurprisingly by now, we again have only a single Deathwatch player, Julius Pasteiner, piloting the Army of Renown, ending up on rank 46, somewhere in the upper middle. His matchups were as following: Crusher Stampede, Space Wolves, Tau, Thousand Suns and Tau again. The 2 losses were against the Tau. For his list, he only goes with 2 HQs, the Phobos Librarian as well as the Primaris Chaplain on bike with the Beacon, allowing him to bring along 5 pretty nasty kill teams. 1 Indomitor with the classic Aggressors Inceptor combo, 3 Costello-style Proteus kill teams, as well as a 5th Proteus kill team with Cyclone Missile Launcher Terminators. Certainly a potent list overall. Finally, I want to conclude with a few honorable mentions. First, we have the Malaya Shiloh, featuring 31 players over 5 rounds. Again, a single Deathwatch player, ending up on rank 19, going 2-3 with a Dreadnought heavy list including 2 Relic Contemptors and 2 Vendreads, supported by Proteus kill teams and fitting HQ support. Furthermore, at the Attrition GT featuring 36 players over 5 rounds, we had 2 Deathwatch players, both going 3-2. On rank 9, we have Joe Waddock, playing a list near identical to that of Michael Costello, except running Eliminators over Incursors in the Spectre's kill team. Certainly a viable alternative. On rank 11, we have Gavin Scross with a list featuring a Captain on bike, Chaplain on bike, double Indomitor, one with Aggressors and Inceptors, and one with Eradicators. He then has 2 Costello-style Proteus kill teams, and 1 Proteus kill teams with just shotgun wets. This last one is about as cheap as it gets for extra bodies, I guess. He is then rounding up the list with a Judiciar with the Oathkeeper Warlord trait, always a great utility pick. Link to the list is in the description. Then finally, at the Bembel Clash, an event with 36 players over 5 rounds, we have Tobias Wesselman on rank 8, going 3-2, with a quite original non-Army of Renown list packed with a lot of plasma, as we will see in just a moment. For HQs, he has a jump back captain with a relic blade, mastercrafted bolt gun, optimized priority and the beacon and chalice. He then also has a jump pack chaplain with the tool and the paragon of their chapter Ultramarines Warlord trait, as well as a jump pack librarian with the Worken. For troops, he has a minimum squad of Incursors and 2 Proteus kill teams. The first is a close combat one filled with Lightning Claw Wets, a Black Shield and 3 Terminators, and the second is basically 10 Wets with plasma guns and chainswords. But we are not done with the plasma yet. There are 2 full Assault Hellblaster squads, as well as 5 Eradicators with the heavy melter rifles. Last but not least, we have 2 company veterans, always nice to see those. This is quite a unique list, I haven't seen like this before. Link to the list is in the description for anyone interested to going down the plasma route. All in all, the Army of Renown is now not only clearly dominating the competitive Deathwatch scene, but also the one bringing in the results. Though I think it is fair to say that much of this is due to Michael Costello, as well as his Costello-style kill teams, that can now be seen in a variety of very similar lists. Not meaning to discredit anyone here, on the contrary, I think with the current state of the faction, we have to show up with the maximum tools available to us, and both the Indomitor as well as the ever popular Proteus kill teams are really doing the heavy lifting for us for now. I think also worth mentioning is the reappearance of the Worken. With both Tau and Custodes rising in popularity, I think putting this one back into the list is going to go a long way. In addition to this, the Lord of Deceit Warlord trait in combination with the Spectre's kill team is very powerful, allowing to mess with your opponent's deployment easily and then getting them back to safety if required. That aside, I think sticking to the Army of Renown and 5 kill teams is currently the way to go, even though it does leave us a bit tight on points overall, no small thanks to the mandatory specialisms, as well as Space Marines in general not being that cheap for what they can still do these days. I think we now need that second version of the Space Marine codex, and we need it fast. On the bright side of things, though, at least our kill teams counting as troops really goes well with the new missions. To wrap things up, over the course of the video, we have looked at Deathwatch February tournament results, including the Beachhead Brawl 2022, Viking Games Warhammer 40k Winter GT, Warhammer 40k Match Play event, the 40k London Open, and the melee at Shiloh. What stands out here is the rise of Custodes and Tau, both of which just got a brand new codex with the latest power creep. As far as the Deathwatch goes, attendance is even lower than usual, with basically Michael Costello being the only one still bringing home the top result, though unfortunately not even he managed a top 3 placement, though of course his rank 5 at the Beachhead Brawl was close enough. While he still rocks the Librarian, Indomitor kill team and his signature Proteus kill teams, he now swapped one of those out for his Spectre's kill team, with 5 Incursors in combination with the Lord of Deceit Warlord trait. An excellent change well tailored to the new missions, as far as I'm concerned. Our Army of Renown aside, we are seeing less and less of the regular lists, with Dreadnoughts in particular just no longer bringing home the results. I suppose we have to sit the current state of Space Marines out for the time being and hope for a second version of the codex to arrive sooner rather than later. So that's it for the Deathwatch February tournament results and the continued appearances of the new Army of Renown. What do you guys think about these particular lists, and do you think that the Kill Team Strike Force can still win any tournaments with such powerful opponents? Have you guys been facing the new Custodes and or Tau, and how has it been going? Let me know in the comments. Finally, I would also like to mention that there is a SwissHammer Facebook page where I will be posting links to my videos as well as articles I find of interest. I do read a lot about the hobby, but not all of it will always end up as its own video. I look forward to seeing you there as well. I do also have a Patreon page. If you like my content, any additional support is greatly appreciated as it helps me invest into future videos. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. I hope you have been enjoying this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again and see you next time.